Good day, everyone. Eric Olsen from Helps Law Group. Welcome to our YouTube channel today, March 10th, 2026. Glad to have you here. My name's Eric. Been an attorney for 48 years, the founder of Helps. Helps is a national law firm. And what our main mission is to protect seniors from debt collector harassment. We do that under a law called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Part of that law provides if you're represented by an attorney, debt collectors can no longer call or send you demand letters anymore. They have to leave you alone. And that's what Helps does. When people find out about us and they enroll in Helps, they give us the creditors they owe money to or the debt collectors. We send out a cease and desist letter to the debt collector, and they got to leave you alone. They have to talk to us, not you. In fact, I talked to one today. The phone was ringing. I happened to pick it up, and it was a debt collector for a law firm. And first, he wanted to verify that we represented the person, and I told him we did. And he wanted to know if we had the last four digits of their social security number. We did. When people enroll in Helps, at the end, when they enroll, we usually get the last four digits of their social security number. Because a lot of time, debt collectors, to verify that we actually represent the person, they want to know that. It's not that we're snoopy. It's just that helps us. And then they want to know if we had a power of attorney. I said, well, we don't really have a power of attorney, but we do have what's called a client authorization form. When clients enroll with Helps, we send them a form that we have them sign that says that we're authorized to speak on their behalf regarding their debt. Okay? And so the client authorization form, we have that. And he wanted me to send him a copy. I said, we will when you send us a request to do that. We're not going to just send it to you. You got to get us something in writing who you are. I'm not going to just send it to anyone who calls me on the phone. And so he said they would do that. So that's what we do. We represent you so that you don't have to deal with collectors anymore. A lot of clients that call us may have a credit card they want to keep, and they can keep making that credit card payment and keep that credit card, if they want to. Helps is different than bankruptcy. In bankruptcy, you file bankruptcy, all your credit is shut off whether you owe them anything or not. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat section. I'll address them there. The title for today is Don't Let Collectors Abuse You. And I'll talk a little bit as we go along. Hi, attorney now wants my birthday and last four digits of my social security. Why would they need that in regards to a lawsuit for Discover? Well, they would want the last four digits of your social security because I don't know if it's your attorney. But the last four digits is normally how a creditor can identify that you're actually representing the person, that you're not some stranger or that you don't have authority. So that's why. Now, some helps, we ask our clients for the month of their birth, okay? Month only. Very rarely do we need that. We used to do it because we used to send out birthday cards to all our clients. We don't do that anymore. Maybe we'll start doing it again. But we just ask for the month of the birth. Maybe we'll stop asking for that. Okay. My attorney that I'm paying, but it's odd. Yeah, that is. Yeah. Asking for the last four digits from the social security number isn't that unusual. Okay. You don't give them the complete number, just the last four digits. That lets them know that you actually did talk to the person. Okay. Person writes in, they say, I'm 70 years old, had to medically retire at 59 due to, I was in an auto accident, they say. And I've had multiple surgeries, many medications, and doctor appointments monthly. I pride myself. Uh, I prided myself on my high credit score, but I had to live off of credit cards until my disability came into play. Was in fact. I've been paying my creditors and now am facing having my electricity turned off because I paid my credit cards before my electricity. And this person listened to one of our programs and they said, "Thank you for your program and this video, as I will be changing the way I survive from now on." Yes, I feel badly knowing my decision, but I worked since I was 15 and was handed a circumstance I never foresaw coming. He got into an accident, he couldn't work anymore. I was planning on working until I was 67. Thank you again for this information. I have cried daily for months trying to figure out how I will even eat. It has been one day at a time for over a year. So, this is exactly what helps us here. We're here to let you know that your income is protected and safe, and that if you owe debt you can't afford to pay, and you don't have enough money for your needs like your food, your medicine, your housing, electricity, like this guy, um, you can stop paying the credit card debt and use that money for your needs because your Social Security is protected. It can't be taken from you. So is your pension. So is disability income, VA benefits, 401k, IRAs, any form of retirement. It's safe. And then there's a way to stop the creditors from harassing you. Okay? Fair Debt Collection Practices Act provides that. And before I started HELPS in 2012, probably filed 30, 40,000 bankruptcies. And just a lot of seniors would come to me and I tell them, you don't need to file bankruptcy. Couldn't afford to file bankruptcy. Well, why don't you need to file? Why don't I need to file bankruptcy? They ask. Well, because your income is protected, and no one's going to take your assets. Your assets are protected under state law, and so. But I knew if I sent them home, creditors could still bother them, and so HELPS was started. So there would be a law firm that could represent seniors that are struggling, that are poor or lower income, or even modest income, who receive protected income so that they wouldn't have to deal with debt collectors anymore. Our law firm could send a letter to that debt collector and they'd have to communicate with us and not you. And so that's what we do. Okay? So Tweety Bird says one creditor went through after we got a cease and desist letter, they got a judgment against me with 6% interest. I'm upset I could never have extra money in the bank. Should I close the secured credit card? Well, that's up to you. You don't necessarily need to. Um, if you've got a secured credit card and it says 3,000, is that what you owe on it? Do you have 3,000 in equity in the credit card? In other words, you have an account with $3,000. I doubt it. Normally, when you get a secured credit card, you put several $100s in, and they only have a several $100s as your credit limit. And then after you've had it for a while, they may up your credit over an amount that you have in the bank account that secures the credit card. As far as closing the credit card account, not paying anymore, that's up to you. You can do that. Um, you're upset I can't have extra money in the bank. Well, you can have twice the amount of your federal benefits in your bank is protected automatically in your bank account by your bank from debt collectors taking it. Now, if your only income is Social Security, okay, you can have more than twice the amount in that account. It may not be protected automatically, but if you ever did get garnished, someone would have to sue you and have a judgment, and they'd have to garnish at the exact right time. Uh, if the money in there over twice the amount that you get each month is from Social Security, you can file a challenge to garnishment or claim of exemption, and the court will order that money be released. We don't have that happen too often for our clients. Most of people don't, they don't have more than twice the amount. Now, if you did have extra money, I mean, you could put it on a preloaded debit card, um, money order. You keep it cash. You could do other things. You know, the amount of interest you get from a savings account is really not very much. Okay. Okay. Let me deal. There's a lot of comments here. I'm trying to get to the questions. I have 3,000 equity. Don't want the attorney for the judgment or getting hold of the secured credit card. So you have a bank account. Um, okay. First off, I suppose it's possible they could get at it, but I've never seen that happen. They'd have to know where it is, and then if the money in that's securing that credit card, do you owe $3,000 on the credit card? If you owe 3,000 on the credit card, you got 3,000 in the bank account, then the bank has priority over that money. The credit card company, the credit card bank, and it couldn't be garnished. You can call and talk to us, and we'll be glad to go over it with you. Um, I thought it would be a safe place to hold money in a secured credit card. Well, it, it normally would be, and I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be. You can call and talk to us. Okay. Would filing bankruptcy be a terrible thing for me? I turned 80 in October, still working. My commissions go into a bank account where my Social Security pension is deposited. Tired of worrying they'll seize that money. Well, someone would have to have a judgment against you. And if your commissions go into the bank account, as long as you keep the bank account less than twice the amount of what you get in Social Security, it's protected. Someone would have to sue and get a judgment. You know, who is it? I, Waltz. I filed probably, like I said, 30 or 40,000 bankruptcies before I started helps, and I haven't met too many 80-year-olds that ever needed to file bankruptcy for a lot of different reasons. Um, Now you still work and you still get commissions. Um, Sometimes, if you're owed commissions in the future, filing bankruptcy could be like stepping into the briar patch. It could get you into problems. So you can call and talk to us. We'll be glad to go over with it. But in order for someone to take your money, first they have to sue you, get a judgment, uh, and know where you work. A certain amount percentage of your money is protected. In some states, all your income is protected. I'm using that money to pay off my IRS debt off. Well, you're 80 years old. Um, you may not even need to pay the IRS. Okay, depending on what you owe. Um, the IRS may never. The IRS isn't going to go after your Social Security. Theoretically, they can send you a letter saying they intend to offset 15% of your Social Security, although that happens very rarely. And a lot of seniors, if they ever got that letter, can get on what's called currently not collectible status and not have to pay the IRS. Is the IRS going to go after your pension? Did you say you had a pension? Uh, I can't recall the IRS ever trying to garnish a person's pension. Legally, they can. They just, as a practice, don't do that. So if the reason you're working is to pay the IRS debt, you may not need to do that. Call and talk to us. We'll go over it with you. Once I pay the IRS, I'll retire. I mean, if you can do that if you want, there's no problem. I don't discourage people from paying their taxes. Um, So in other words, no, I don't own anything on the credit card. It's just a secured credit card to help build my credit card, and you got 3,000 in that bank account. I guess if they were, they'd have to have a judgment. They'd have to know where that credit card, that bank is, which is not likely. There's hundreds of banks out there. And then if the money in that bank account came from a protected source like Social Security, you'd have you could file a challenge to garnishment or claim exemption. So the likelihood of you having an issue with that secured credit card, the extra money you have in there is pretty slight. Anyone here use Direct Express for Social Security? A lot of people do. Uh, it's a way to have your Social Security get deposited into a debit card that's not a bank account. Okay. So this person writes in. They said, Do you have an office in Los Angeles, California? I'm having credit card debts of 15,000 and late on payments. I'm a senior, 76 years old, and trying to find the right program to get out of debt. Maybe you can help me. Thanks, he says. Well, okay. Uh, we really don't have a physical office where clients meet with us in person. It's not what we do. People that find out about helps enroll with helps over the phone. When you call, we ask you a series of questions that we save, and you might call 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times before you decide to enroll. And we can enroll you over the phone instantly when you decide to enroll. We click a button and wait for you to get an email that says welcome to helps. And then you get us the creditors you owe money to. We send out a cease and desist letter wherever you live. Okay. Now, um, one of our attorneys happens to live in Los Angeles, but no, we don't have an office here. You don't need to come in and meet with us. Okay. No, it's not what we do. Everything we do by you coming in, we can do over the phone. It's so much more efficient. It's faster. Um, you know, don't need to come in. So this person asked, they said, what is considered an old debt? So they hear us talk about, when you enroll in helps, you give us your old debts. It doesn't matter how old the debt is. It could be a debt that was incurred yesterday or last week. Um, what we do is represent seniors and disabled persons who owe debt in order to stop collectors from harassing them. The age of the debt really doesn't matter. Some clients call us, and if we have 5 clients call us, maybe 1 out of 5 is completely current on everything. So, but they use their credit cards every month, and they make a payment towards. But maybe they've been making payments, and finally they realize I can't make the payments anymore. It's like they've dug a hole. They've been throwing the dirt out by making payments, and now they try to throw it out, and it keeps tumbling down in the hole. They realize they can't. So it doesn't matter how old the debt. It can be recent. Okay. Wendy asks, do all original creditors sell your debt to debt collectors after writing off your account? Just curious if there was a percentage that do, or is there no way of knowing? I don't know that there's any way of knowing. I think eventually most of them do, and that's one reason why helps our help is ongoing. Most of the time when you hire an attorney, it's just you hire him to do a specific thing, and then bye bye, he's done with you. But with helps, you're our client literally forever. It's not just one time. The cost is minimal. The most a client would pay would be $40 for 24 months, then $20 for 24 months free thereafter, or $30 for 24 months, $15 for 24 months free thereafter, or $20 for 24 months, $10 for 24 months, or free thereafter. Or it could possibly be less, or it could be free. Okay, and you're literally our client forever. Okay, unless you don't want us anymore. So why is that? Well, because you might get a new letter from a new debt collector a year from now, 2 years from now, from a debt that we sent a letter to when you first enrolled. They may turn it over to someone else. So that's what we do. We represent you so that you have an attorney ongoing. So if you ever have any questions, if you're ever worried or scared, you pick up the phone and you call. Kind of reminds me, I talked to a nice lady yesterday who was a client of Helps. And when the person got handed over to me, the receptionist, whoever the answer the phone said, "She's really upset, Eric. I don't think she's too happy." And I said, "I'm not worried about it." And I got on the phone with her, explained everything. I think she had been sued. Oh, if I remember right, she'd been sued, but she hadn't got served with the papers yet. But she'd gotten a couple letters uh, from the debt settlement companies, somehow find about the lawsuit, and were trying to solicit her to enroll with their program so they could work with her. And I told her these were just advertisement letters. And I told her what was going to, I explained to her why her income was protected, why she didn't need to worry, okay, how her bank account was protected, and that eventually when she got served with the summons and complaint, she needed to get it to Helps. Then we're going to send a letter to the attorney that sued her, letting them know that her income is protected. We're going to call her on the phone, explain to her again why she doesn't need to go to court. And by the time we were done, she was fine. And I emphasized to her again. I said, if you're ever worried like this, like you were when you called us today, you give us a call and talk to us because that's what we're here for. We're not here to. We're here to, you know, explain to our clients why they're going to be okay, so they don't need to worry. So, yeah, there's no way of knowing a percentage of creditors that are going to turn it over to a new debt collector. But it doesn't matter because your income's protected. And when you have Helps, we're there forever. So you call us on the phone. I talked to a guy this morning. He got a letter, or he got a call from a law firm trying to collect for Hughes, which is kind of a internet dish or something like that. Now, I suspect the law firm they 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 have a lot of persons that try to collect on their behalf, and they say they're a law firm because maybe they think if they're a law firm, they're going to get a better response rate. People will be scared or intimidated, more willing to set up a payment plan. I told him, I said, "Do you have their contact information?" He said, "No." And he thought he'd given it to us, but he hadn't. I said, "Well, you don't need to talk to them if you don't want to, but if they do call and you want to talk to them, or if you get something in writing, their name and address and their account number, get it to us. We're going to get him a cease and desist letter." And I explained to him why all his income was protected. He didn't need to worry about the creditors. Okay? So Doris says, is it better to have my Social Security SSI income directly deposited to my bank account, which I have, or direct express card? It doesn't matter. If you have it directly deposited in your bank account, remember that twice the amount of your Social Security is automatically protected by your bank from garnishment, regardless of what funds are in there or where they came from. Direct Express card is handy. Only problem with the Direct Express card is they may charge you a fee if you withdraw money more than a couple times during the month. That usually doesn't happen with a bank, with a debit card through a bank. If you've had a hard time with a bank, maybe a Direct Express card is your answer. Almost every place will take a debit card, which a Direct Express card essentially is. I guess the only exception is maybe some landlords may not take a debit card. They may want to check, and that might be an exception. Why would Tammy ask? Why would the surgeon mail me a letter in your name that you disputed the debt? a lot of debt collection outfits are governed by artificial intelligence. They have a series of letters that cover a series of topics, and maybe that's the one they picked out. Okay, that's the only reason I can think. A lot of ways helps is the same way. We have 300 or 400 or maybe close to 500 emails on different topics that we send to our clients that are pretty, but then we also add stuff into them to make it individual as needed. But that could be the reason why. Do judgments show up on your credit report? Tweety Bird asked. Um, Not anymore. Okay, in around 2018 or 2019, uh, the credit reporting agency stopped reporting judgments. Now, why did they do that? They did it because I think they got sued. Let's say uh, a guy was going to buy a home and his loan had been approved, and it was getting down to closing, and all of a sudden the title company checked the credit report and they found out there was a judgment outstanding somewhere, somehow. And the guy says to the title company, he says, I paid that off a year ago. Well, it still shows on your credit report, Mr. Jones. It's going to delay. And then because his loan was delayed, his interest rate went up maybe. And an attorney decided to sue the credit bureau because they said, hey, this has been satisfied more than a year ago, yet it shows on this guy's credit report, and now he has to pay higher interest. You're going to owe us this amount of money. So the credit reporting bureau stopped reporting lawsuits and judgments. Okay, they don't report tax liens either, because a tax lien could get satisfied and they didn't correct it on the credit report, and it could stop the guy from getting his loan approved. And so that's why they don't do it. Okay, they report what information gives them. People give them. So if someone says that they didn't pay a bill and the credit bureau got sued, they would be able to cross sue whoever gave them the information that they reported, saying, "Hey, all we did was report information that was given to us." Okay, they don't report judgments anymore. It's just kind of a good thing. That incredible. Okay, here we go. And as far as your credit is concerned, Helps does have a program, 7 Steps to a 720 credit score, that helps people rebuild their credit. After you've been part of Helps for at least 90 days, and if you're a member of Helps, you can contact us. We'll send you an email. That program is free for our clients. We don't operate it, but another company does. Will a judgment affect a person trying to buy a cheap car someday? Well, it's not going to appear on your credit report, so probably won't. Okay, here's one. Person asked, thank you for your expertise. What happens when a local finance company asks you to list collateral? And then they listened to one of our videos and they said, such a relief. So occasionally, a finance company in certain parts of the country, um, a lot of times in the South, will have you list certain assets you own as security for the loan. Um, there's a law called the Uniform Commercial Code that describes liens generally on personal property, like on not cars or not homes, but like things you buy, washing machine, jewelry, lawnmower, maybe even a computer or whatever. And there's two types of liens. One is called a purchase money security interest, Another one's a non-purchase money security interest. A purchase money security interest lien is like if you went to Home Depot and bought a lawnmower and they financed it, part of the form that you signed gave them a security interest in the lawnmower until it was paid. Are they going to repossess it if you don't pay it? Probably not. Could they legally? They can try, but it's a headache for them. But they, but it's just part of their legal form. But a non-purchase money security interest is when you borrow money from a finance company and they ask you to put up certain collateral you have, like your dining room set, your sofa, your kitchen table, uh, your lawnmower, your computer, as security for the loan. And they mostly do it to intimidate you, to make you think that, hey, if I don't pay this loan, they're going to come take my sofa or my bed or my refrigerator or my washer or dryer or my lawnmower or whatever else they put on that list. They just have you write this stuff out. Now, in 48 years of practice, I've never seen anyone take anything from someone for a non-purchase money security interest. I've had them try to intimidate people. Uh, I mean, if they came to take something, you could refuse. A lot of times, people might sell the item or might throw it away because it's old. Um, but that's why they do it, mostly just to intimidate you. Um, whether they act on it, I don't see them acting on it. So Doris says, I will keep my monthly benefits in my bank account instead of a direct express card. Well, that means you're going to get your Social Security on a direct on your bank account. You don't want to have both. You want to have one or the other, Doris. Okay. You don't want to have a bank account because the money's protected in the account to which it's deposited. And if you have a bank account, you want your Social Security deposited into that account. Yeah. Okay. Um, here's a person made a comment about what helps does, which was not wrong, which was wrong, and I wrote it down. It said he's commenting on one of our videos that we talked about helps when we do. He says, the person said, well, this meaning helps is only for low income seniors or disabled individuals who are unable to pay old unsecured debts like credit cards, medical bills, not secured debts like HOA, ever increasing assessment fees on their condominium or single family home that is owned but is now susceptible to foreclosure. No, that's not quite the case. We represent, no one is ever disqualified from enrolling in helps, no matter how much money they make. You know, we don't represent too many people that are wealthy, okay, or any, I don't think. But you know, wealth, you know, a lot of people might make, like, say for example, someone who is in California. It's expensive to live in California, and some people in California they have quite a bit of Social Security. They may have a higher pension, and they could be considered wealthy in another state where it's less expensive to live. So it doesn't matter what your income is to enroll with helps. Okay. Um, but our clients they can't afford to pay, and for some people they may have higher incomes, but they have higher expenses depending based on where they live. Uh, but a lot of our clients have secured debt and they enroll in helps. Yeah, obviously, if you have a secured debt like a car you want to keep, you got to keep making the car payment, or a house you want to keep, and you want to keep the home. Um, yeah, and if you don't make the house payment, they can foreclose on your home. Uh, but a lot of our clients have both unsecured and secured debt. This person writes in, they say, um, I have a question that I haven't heard addressed yet. Well, that would be something because I've, I've been talking for a long time on these videos. Okay, but let's see what he's going to say. Yet, in any of these videos that I've watched so far, what if your credit card debt is in the same institution? Well, I've talked about this, but I haven't watched enough. But that's okay. Where you bank at and where your Social Security is deposited. At my bank, it's Wells Fargo Bank. I've been there for many years, and they're a good bank. I like them, but I owe a little over 11,000 due to monthly interest charges that kept pushing higher and higher on a credit card, probably. Uh, it didn't start out that way. Where my checks are deposited each month, take any money out from my account. Although I owe them money on one of their credit cards, I have not heard that particular question asked or answered yet. So that has me a little concerned. Thank you very much for your information you put out in these videos, by the way. Okay. Um, here's the law. A bank cannot offset money out of your account to pay a debt that you owe the bank unless you gave them permission. Unless money goes into your account other than Social Security. So if your only income is Social Security, a bank can't offset money out of your bank account to pay the debt. Now, as a practice, we don't see banks offsetting money out of a person's account to pay a debt that you owe the bank, like a credit card, even if there's money that goes in your account other than Social Security. As long as Social Security is going in there with other funds, we don't see them doing it. Now, the exception is credit unions. Credit unions, when you bank at a credit union, whether you realize it or not, you gave them authority to take money out of your account to pay the credit union any money you owe them for a debt. And when you signed a loan for a credit union, you gave them authority to take money out of your account, your bank account, to pay the debt that you owe them. Now, Truist Bank has has implemented the same forms, and they will take money out of your account, but they're the only bank that does that, not the other banks, not Wells Fargo Bank. Okay, but credit unions are famous for doing that. So if you owe a credit union, you're not going to pay it. You need to change to a different bank account. That's what we tell our clients. Okay. Okay. I don't feel comfortable giving the attorney the last four digits of Social Security. You don't need to give him your exact birth date. You could just give him the year of your birth. I don't know why he needs the birthday date. Tell him we can talk to you about it. Okay. But I would say this: if the person is going to represent you and they're going to call a creditor is going to almost always ask for the last four digits of the Social Security number. Otherwise, they won't talk to them. A lot of them do that. Not all of them, but a lot of them do that. That's why they're asking for it. So, in order for them to help you, they're going to need that information. And we ask it for people that enroll in helps. Now, we don't ask it at the beginning. It's one of the last things we ask. If I was going to ask, a lot of people call us, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times over months or even years before they enroll in helps. If we ask them at the beginning too many questions about something like that, that's kind of snoopy. I don't need it. We only need it if we're going to represent someone. So if we represent you, then we're going to want the last four digits of your Social Security number. And that's why, because creditors will when we send a cease and desist letter, what we do is we put out that we represent you to communicate regarding the debt. We don't represent you on the lawsuit, but communicate regarding the debt. And they want to know that we really have that authority. So that's one way they can verify that we really are representing you to communicate regarding the debt, is by having the last four digits of your social security number. Okay. And we can't do anything with the last four digits. Although, I'll tell you this. Oh, God, this is interesting. Okay. One of the attorneys that helped called me yesterday and said, Eric, I heard this story from a client called. Um, I don't know if they filed or they were going to file bankruptcy or something, and they turned in the creditor list to the attorney. And lo and behold, the client talked to one of our other attorneys that helped and said, someone started using one of their credit cards, and they found out it was one of the employees at the law firm that they were going to file bankruptcy with. And so they called the law firm and talked to the head attorney and said, do you realize what you guys have done? You guys, someone at your office is using my credit card and running up my debt. Well, I guess the attorney just totally wigged out and was, that's a problem. And they settled with him by paying him some money and probably I'm sure they fired their employee immediately. I've always thought about that possibility happening. I've never heard of it happening, with a bankruptcy attorney trying to use someone's credit. But this person was an employee. Now, I could tell you stories about trustees, bankruptcy trustee. There was a bankruptcy trustee in Klamath Falls, Oregon one time who, I don't know if he went to jail or not, but he defrauded a lot of people. Anyway, kind of off topic. The attorney should be talking to has complaints to the attorney. All attorneys have complaints to BBB, and it's not unusual. That's right. Okay. So, we have a really nice website. Okay. And I'm just going to show you this. We have to cover all kinds of topics. You could spend hours on our website, literally hours. I mean, YouTube Live isn't the only place you need to. So let's see if I got this right here. Okay, here we go. I just happened on this morning. This is part of our website, and this is an article, Retired and Looking for Debt Relief, Seniors in Bankruptcy. This is actually a pretty good article I put together years ago, and it's still accurate. It talks about, the types of bankruptcies, chapter 13, chapter 7, the cost. Only thing that needs to be changed on this article, it says attorneys typically charge fees of at least $1,000. It's probably more like $1,500 now or $2,000. Bankruptcy prices have gone up considerably. And then I explain why bankruptcy may not be necessary because your assets are exempt. Even if you have assets aren't exempt, and creditors aren't, like unsecured creditors rarely go after personal property. And then explain when a senior might need bankruptcy, which is pretty rare. Relief from collectors without bankruptcy, which talks about helps in what we do. Okay. Uh, um, a lot of seniors, if they go to a bankruptcy attorney, not a lot, but occasionally I'll talk to a senior that's in a Chapter 13. The reason they're in a Chapter 13 is that they couldn't file regular bankruptcy, because they had too much equity in a home, for example, and they had to file a Chapter 13. Well, they really didn't need to file bankruptcy because if they would have done nothing, the creditors weren't going to go after their home anyway. And so sometimes they're in a Chapter 13 making a payment to a bankruptcy trustee that they really can't afford when they didn't need to get there in the first place. Okay. So we've got articles on all kinds of topics. By law, does the attorney have to give me the name of my person dealing with? Well, there's no reason why they shouldn't give you the name of the person they're dealing with. It's not secret. Okay. Here's something, a person calling us from Rhode Island or contact us from Rhode Island. He says, I'm 73 years old. I'm being sued as a personal guarantee on a business loan. Quite a bit of money, a little bit less than $100,000. That's in default. It's a C corporation. So it's a corporate debt, but he guaranteed the debt. Yeah, if you've got a business and you owe debt on your business, if it's a small business, you always owe it personally. Whether you realize it or not, they always made you personally guarantee the debt. Okay? So if you incorporate thinking that my corporation owes this debt, if it goes under, I'm not going to be liable for it, you're going to be surprised. You're going to be liable for it because whoever you sell to or whoever you borrow money from is going to have you guarantee the debt. Now, the only exception would be a huge corporation. Okay. Amazon. Okay. Big corporation. Ford Motor Company. Yeah. They're not going to make the leader of Ford Motor Company guarantee the debt. Okay. Okay. He says it's solely owned by me, the corporation. Yeah, they're always going to make you guarantee it. I've consulted a bankruptcy attorney who suggested that I combine the business and personal together in one bankruptcy. You would never, if the business is going to close down, you wouldn't file separate bankruptcy. You just file bankruptcy personally and list any debt that you're liable to on the corporation. Okay. I'm not sure that is the proper way to go. Well, it would be. My personal income is Social Security of $3,500 a month. Last year, he had business from his income, from his business average of $600 per month. He talks about his assets. And he's got a debtor's exam. I guess he wants to know what to do. Well, okay. If the business is shut down, if he's filing bankruptcy, the business is being shut down. That's a given. And his only income is Social Security. He really doesn't need to file bankruptcy. He doesn't need to worry about the debtor's exam either. I mean, he needs to go to the debtor's exam. He's going to be asked questions. I'd want to prepare him before he does that, though. He's got cash in the bank. He says 7,000, which includes Social Security in a separate account. Well, the Social Security is going to be protected. If he had one bank account, but see, he says he gets $3,500 in Social Security each month. What's 3,500 times two? 7,000. So if he takes all the money from the other account, puts it into his Social Security account, it's protected from garnishment. They can't take it from him. Do you understand what I'm saying? Twice, if you've got a judgment, twice the amount of your Social Security is protected in the account to which it's deposited, regardless if there's other money happens to be in the account at the same time. So he says he got $7,000, two accounts. One is Social Security only, and one some other money. So let's say he had 5,000 in the Social Security account, 2,000 in the other account. Take 2,000, put in the Social Security account. Now it's 7,000 there. It's protected. No one can take it. He's got a car, not worth a lot. They're not going to go after the car. Furniture, electronics, etc., and they're not going to do that. And he's got a bunch of personal debt and business debt. I mean, He wants to know if he could file bank. He doesn't need to file bankruptcy. He could file bankruptcy. He's 73 years old. You know, I started Chapter 13. I mean, I started helps because I knew a lot of seniors that simply didn't need to file bankruptcy, couldn't afford to file bankruptcy. And this guy's a perfect example. I mean, he could file if he wanted to. Um, Now, there could possibly be a problem with his car being worth a little bit too much money, which could cause a problem in bankruptcy. But not filing bankruptcy, that wouldn't be an issue because they're never going to come after his car. So, anyway, we're going to call this guy. We're going to be able to help him. Do you understand? I talk kind of fast, I know. Um, if you give Attorney for the Social Security thing, no, they can't. They can't look up your bank account with the last four digits of your Social Security number. I don't know where you heard that. That's not true. I've talked about this. In the old days, a creditor could call the bank and say, "Well, a check for X amount of dollars um, clear," and that way they could tell how much money you had in your bank account. And if you had a lot of money in your bank account, then that was the time to garnish. I learned that years ago when I was a law student. They don't do. You can't get through the. Do you think you could call a bank and ask someone if a check would clear and get an answer? You'll never get through to the right person in the bank for one thing, and they would never dare tell you anything like that. Um, Trieber says our credit reports show what banks we bank at least on the credit report I just pulled for annual review. Um, I'm not aware of that. I'd be curious to see that. Now, as far as NSF checks, yeah, there may be a place. There's Check Systems has a place where they can find out NSF checks and they can report that. Okay, we have emails that talk about that. But once again, if someone has a judgment against you, you keep it twice the amount of your federal benefit in your account. It doesn't matter who garnishes you; the money's protected. So it says Unicourt shows plaintiff's attorney, judge, process server's name, everything, including every court motion with public access. Only good thing is whatever what F is. I don't know what that is. Paid attorney. So it looks like there may be a website where you can go to and find out, but you can almost the vast majority of counties now in the United States, you can access that information on their website. You don't have to pay anyone to get access to that information. Okay. So the attorney is jealous of what I do. I hope more attorneys do what I do because a lot of people need this help. Okay. Okay. Why is it that we can't represent people in North Carolina? You can call and talk to me, and I'll explain to you why. We still talk to people in North Carolina. We just can't send a cease and desist letter out. They have an aggressive bar association. They're very protective. They're only state in the unions that way. We decided that rather than fight them, we would just talk to people, tell them what to do on their own. Okay. This person listened to one of our videos and they said, my story exactly. I'm a 77-year-old female until I spoke with a local financial agency and learned that my Social Security income was protected. I was trying to pay down my credit card debt. It became impossible. Every payment was met with the interest rate bringing it back up. I've always valued my credit score and struggled with letting it go into default. Um, There was just no other way to continue and also be able to buy food, public transportation, rent, etc. Credit company is now sending me mails that they may be contacting a collection agency. I realize that Social Security is protected. Nevertheless, I have to go through whatever happens next because I got myself into this mess. There is anxiety until this is settled. However, I feel grateful that there is a way out. Like many, I really don't understand how credit worked until it was too late. Well, if I talk to this person, I would tell them that um, they don't need to feel anxiety. It's really not a mess. They may think it is, but it's not. The reason it's not is because you're 77, you could be 67, doesn't matter. Your income is protected. It's Social Security. No one can take it. Even if you got sued, you wouldn't have to go to court. Okay. And if you want our help, you contact helps. We'll send a letter to the people you owe money to, so they don't bother you. And you can always call and talk to us. But it's not a mess, and you shouldn't have anxiety. We talked. That's why helps was started, so we could help seniors that owe debt, so they wouldn't have anxiety. They wouldn't need to worry. Okay. And if you're in that position, please listen to more of our videos. Look at our YouTube page. Look at our web page. Call us on the phone and talk to us. Okay. Never costs money to talk to us. Okay. Don't want we don't want seniors to be worried. This person says my Social Security is $27.50 a month. My VA disability is $22.50 a month. A monthly total of $5,000. Okay. And he says times this time two is 10,000. All of this is protected? Question mark. Thanks, Mike. Yes, because your Social Security is a federal benefit. So is your VA benefit. The amount you get each month times two is protected. 10,000. 5,000 times two is 10,000. Now, if you happen to have more than your account in that, is it still protected? Yes, but it's just not protected automatically. The 10,000 is protected automatically in the event a creditor sued you, got a judgment, and garnished your bank account. They would protect that automatically without you having to do anything. Occasionally, a client will call us and they have more than their account, and they got garnished, and some of that extra money was held up. We'll help them. We contact the attorney, show them proof that the income's protected, and the attorney normally agrees to release it. We'll tell the client how to file a claim of exemption or challenge the garnishment, where they could go in front of the judge and have the excess money released. But most of our clients don't have that issue, don't have that problem. Okay? Person asks, can a company garnish my money from my part-time job, which is only $1,200 a month, and I'm also on Social Security, so I'm safe? Well, probably. It depends on the state, and depends on what you make. Every state protects a minimum of $217.50 net per week in wages. That's after taxes and other withholdings are taken. $217.50, $435 every 2 weeks, $950 a month. And then quite a few states protect all wages from garnishment. Texas and Florida, or Texas is a good example. South Carolina. A lot of states protect more than $217.50 net per week in wages. So, and then if you got a job making $1,200 a month, is that gross? And what do you net? If you net 1,000 and 945, I mean, they might be able to take $1,250 out of your check. I mean, so it's shouldn't be an issue. So for that reason, we tell a lot of our clients, you can still work if you want to, or can get a job if you want. Okay. And we talk to people in North Carolina just incidentally. We don't charge them any fee to talk to them. We can send them to the right places. Okay. I have a timeshare that we cannot afford to pay the maintenance fee yearly. How can I protect myself? Stop paying the maintenance fee. Let it go back. You don't have to hire anyone to get you out of the timeshare. If you enroll in helps, we're going to send a letter to them, tell them to leave you alone. There are companies that try to get people out of timeshares. I consider them scammers. Like I've explained before, I talked to my former partners a couple of years ago and asked, do you ever remember in our history of our practice that we ever had a timeshare ever sue anyone for money? And none of them could ever remember it. No, timeshare, you can just let it go back. Don't need to worry. Okay, it's been an hour. Today is Tuesday. Tomorrow's Wednesday. We have helps tomorrow, same time. Thanks for participating. A lot of good questions today. Please call us if you have any more questions. The number's down below, 855-435-7787. God bless and have a wonderful day.